how sad is it that we got to decide, oh, I can't get the facilities for all the different for this group of sports because then we wouldn't be able to pay for our quarterback, like or whatever, whatever the case may be. It's just nonsense.
Greetings and salutations and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today, finishing up a great week of shows, our team leader, Mike King. Mike, how you doing, man?
Ready to talk some college football.
All right, so in segment one, we're going to talk about the new way of doing business. In segment two, we're going to talk about the potential house settlement and what impact that's going to have. And in segment three, we're going to talk about the impact on recruiting. And Mike is a Maryland alum, and I can't wait to get his opinions on that. But first, Mike, there's a new way of doing business. So late last month, Texas A&M Athletic Director Trev Alberts, who left Nebraska for the money of Texas A&M, for the opportunity to do something different, cut more than 12 staff positions to reorganize the emerging threats of a new business model. Missouri, the new AD, has a clause in their contract that talks about the potential changes to the financial model. And then Iowa State's athletic director said all of the things out loud that we talk about privately. And what are the things that was mentioned? With college sports being on the cusp of a new revenue sharing model, plans for a new wrestling facility has been halted and no next steps looming. With the lawsuit getting ready to be settled, you just can't move forward with projects like that. Pollard knows he has a $100 million budget and can only make sure that he has at least $20 million to give to athletes. So your budget's not $100 million, your budget is $80 million, and it's crazy. So most ADs are like, we know this is coming, Mike, but what are we going to do about it? So with that, you got to get a new type of AD. You got to give somebody with a business background, and they can't be just educators. They got to know how all of this is going to shape up. Mike, you're a former athletic administrator. You're a coach. I just threw some things out at you. What's your response to it?
And I feel like this is how a lot of things are going. Because I know as a teacher, I think a superintendent has to be a former CEO. They have to have that mindset to make sure they're making the right moves. But in this case, how sad is it that we got to decide, oh, I can't get the facilities for all the different for this group of sports because then we wouldn't be able to pay for our quarterback, like or whatever, whatever the case may be. It's just nonsense. And that's where college sports have found themselves. And the thing that I keep thinking of is the colleges have the power because most sports, you can't just go straight from high school right to the league. So the colleges, they're the middle person. They have the power. They need to group together and at least get some control because this is just they're just ruining the sport. And every segment we're going to talk about when we talk about college football moving forward is basically going to be how this is making things kind of worse overall. Now, should players get paid and all that? Of course, but this is now what we're talking about. AD's like, well, can't really build that facility. So is that better for the school? Is that better? Now we have to hire ADs who are like businessmen because it's only about money. Everything's only about who can make the most money so maybe we can pay for the quarterback, the running back, and have a place for everyone to work out. It's just nonsense.
And I appreciate you bringing up just the superintendent piece. What's being lost in all of this is the de-emphasis of the actual college degree, because when you move away from educators, and I, like you, live in two worlds. I live in an academic world. I live in an athletic world. And oftentimes when I'm in an academic meeting, they will make some decision, and I'm like, hey, wait a second. Why are you having prom at this time? Because that's playoff week for 4 different sports. Oh, I didn't know. That's a problem. Or why are you doing this athletically when it's AP testing? Why didn't we modify the schedule because this, and this? So again, when you do separate the two, there keeps being this growing chasm in terms of conflict where there shouldn't be. As we talk in segment two, when we get back, we're going to share with you what the proposed settlement may look like. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
Why should student athletes use the CKA SAVE Project academic and athletic consulting services? Over the past 15 to 20 years, colleges, universities, professional sports teams, business organizations, and others have increased their use of consulting services to improve their decision-making processes and results. Over the same time, the athletic and academic landscape has changed for high school and college student athletes as the NCAA has raised initial academic eligibility requirements for student athletes while decreasing the number of transfer restrictions. Former college student athletes have noted that they were academic and athletically unprepared for the rigors of college. Let the CKA SAVE Project's close to 30 years of academic and athletic experience help guide student athletes to increase success as we work to help student athletes achieve the goal of obtaining a college degree. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast. In segment two, the reality of what's going on is about to set in. As the NCAA continues to make steps towards an expected settlement in the landmark House versus NCAA lawsuit and other related antitrust cases. Yeah, Mike, other related cases. The NCAA sent out a 4-page memo to all 32 Division I conferences last week, detailing how the organization plans to cut back on distribution to leagues in 6 annual payout categories to pay the proposed $2.7 billion in damages. Kind of reminds me of the cuts in Title I funding, but I digress. The memo detailed how the NCAA could split up the expected $1.6 billion that would come from reductions in NCAA distributions, according to media reports. The remaining $1.1 billion is expected to come from NCAA reserves, catastrophic insurance, as well as new revenue and budget cuts. 60% of the money comes from leagues outside of the Power Five, which are now Power Four. So, Mike, what are your initial thoughts on that?
I mean, it's a mess. This is a mess. These schools, and it's not just like the schools that have a robust athletic department, have to pay millions. And why couldn't they just pay the players? just food money. It's all spending like a little fun money. It's all everyone wanted, and now we're here. This little snowball has become this gigantic, this gigantic thing ready to destroy college athletics.
So Mike, with that, here's what the money may look like. The annual cost for the Big East is projected to be between $5.4 and $6.6 million over the next decade. The West Coast Conference, another basketball type league, it's expected to pay $3.5 to $4.3 million. The lowest level payouts for smaller leagues is just under $2 million, which is estimated to be more than 20% of what those leagues got from the NCAA annually. And where's the money coming from? Of the $1.6 billion the NCAA is withholding, that's primarily coming from the Basketball Performance Fund, the NCAA tournament, grant and aid, the Academic Enhancement Fund, sports scholarships, conference grants, and none of this seems to be collectively bargained. What are we doing, Mike? What are we doing?
And what's going to come from this? Because when schools lose millions of dollars, what do they have to do? Cut programs? Because I know
raise student fees
or raise fees. Yeah. But when Maryland, before they joined the Big Ten, they had trouble economically, they got rid of eight sports. Joined the Big Ten solely for money. Glad they did. But like,
Did they bring those sports back?
I don't, not all of them, I don't think. I don't know if they brought any of them back, but I know they haven't brought all of them back. I mean, they're in a better economic situation, but still, like, this is we're gonna end up punishing the college athlete in the name of what? Helping the college athlete? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
And then talking about the money piece, if I'm insert state university, I still only have one donor base. Mm-hmm. So am I going to give money, using Maryland as an example, to enhance the facilities that the players don't care about, or to pay for the players? And if Mike King gets $1 million from the local whatever, well, Mike King may not necessarily need my scholarship money. So now I've opened up more scholarship money. So I can get better players, and everybody can get something. Wait, not everybody's going to get something. Any final thoughts before we move on to the new aspects of recruiting?
I mean, I just hate all of it. College sports are just becoming, especially like when you have this in your mind of what's going on, it does kind of ruin it. Like we've been saying, the basketball teams where no one knows anyone on the team, and the football teams are like, oh, I lost these 3 guys, got these 2 guys. At least football, there's so many people, it's hard for these like complete line changes. Basketball, like, again, I couldn't name. I'm probably a bigger Maryland basketball fan than like 90-something% of Maryland basketball fans. I couldn't name like 4 guys on the team next year. Couldn't do it. It's sad.
You don't know the players without a scorecard. So when we get back in segment 3, we'll talk recruiting, and we'll see how the general fan, likes it, doesn't like it. We'll be right back on the iCoaches podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student-athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Folarin Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams, just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the iCoaches podcast. In segment 3, let's talk about recruiting today. The Athletic, which is a fun, news organizational piece. If you're not subscribing, please do. They had their college football staff catch up with several coaches, NIL officials, agents, staffers, and players to get the scoop on NIL. One person mentioned that there are a lot of ways around making direct contact to gauge interest in potential transfers. You follow the kid on Instagram. You can do things like that. If the kid's liking your stuff back, you like their stuff. People are tampering all of the time. Once you enter the portal, players report as having as many as 60 or 70 schools contact them. I said last week it sounded like Fiverr. We're upgrading our website for CKA. I put in something and I'm still getting notes, and I was like, that's just too much. I'm just trying to do one thing. One assistant coach says there are some advantages to recruiting before the portal. You can recruiting from the portal. You can just get right to it, find out numbers, find out how much things are done, how much money you want. One personnel person says, hey, some player people who are representing them are highly qualified. Others have no idea what they're talking about. And you just got to have the gumption to say no. So, fans, in the Finding the Balance book, I wrote about college recruiting. It was a part of my study, it's part of my research. And we talked a lot about the common educational language that you need to have, talked about coaching motivation and the biggest recruiting challenges. Mike, you have mentioned on the show several times as just a general fan, your thoughts on it. I told you how recruiting is working now. Give me your thoughts on how business is being done now.
I mean, Loxley said this past off season that he had like a third string running back say he wants $100,000 deal, and he's like, "See ya." Like, what are like? I think this is just going to be my line with college sports. What are we doing? It's what are, like you recruit someone, they're there for a year, they go somewhere else, they make money, they go somewhere else, make money. There's no thought of education because you can't really, you're going from place to place. It used to be like, yeah, you could transfer, but that school has to have a program that you need that your school doesn't have. There was an education basis, and now it's just money. And again, the coaches do it. They go from place to place for money, and that's fine. There's only a certain amount of coaches. We're talking tens of thousands of kids across sports just going from place to place, and it's just the Wild West. I think the fact that there's a lack of limits is the problem. I think if there were limits, if it was clear cut, this is how much someone can get, and there wasn't like an advantage to one school to raise millions and millions of dollars versus another school that can't. Because then we're looking at the last segment, we're talking about schools that are going to be getting 20% less money than they're getting, and they need that money because no one's going to their games. They're not making all that extra money. So like, how are they supposed to compete? I think it just needs to be like clear slot. This is what you can get. End of story. It's not unlimited hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because again, when this all started, this was about
cream cheese on bagels,
extra money for food. I want to go out to the movies. It wasn't like the joke from what was the movie Basketball, when everyone knows Shaq made his money at LSU. That's what this has become. Like you could make your money in college, and then if you go pro, great. At least I'll be set because I can make millions of dollars. It's crazy. It's crazy. Put limits.
So, from my end, and I spoke about this in the book, no matter what, coaches still have the same motivational challenges. And everybody is a junior college coach. You still have to recruit student athletes to attend your college and university, and they have to gain admission into your school. So at some point, you got to go to somebody's class. You still have to find student athletes that can perform at a high level. You got to build teams to win championships. And how you're building and constructing your rosters and all of these sports have changed, but you still have to build and construct your roster. This is where I differ. I still believe you got to assist student athletes who are graduating from college because student athletes are now exhausting eligibility with nothing left, and they have to be lifelong assets to your program. As I watch Arkansas make the change with Cal, those players seem to be loyal to Cal and not Kentucky. But Mark Pope brought in his guys, and that's going to be challenging as players bounce and bounce and bounce, which again, do whatever it is you need to do, but get a degree out of it so you can use that degree, because you can't even coach in college if that's what you choose to do in the future without a degree, even if it's in the interdisciplinary study, the general studies or whatever. So Mike, as we close, I want to give you a chance to have the final word. Any final thoughts on this as we wrap up this week?
In the end, they need to do what's best for everyone. I think everyone's too focused on their own individual thing. What's the best for both the player and the university. And that's for education to matter, which is the whole point. Because 99 point something percent of all the college athletes aren't playing at the next level. So we make too many decisions thinking about the few and ignoring the many. We need to focus on the many and do what's best for everyone. And that is limit the high end of the money. Make sure everyone gets something, but the main thing is get the degree.
Math equation for you guys. 8 million high school student athletes, 500,000 college student athletes, less than 3% professional athletes. But that degree is something special. And on behalf of our team leader, I am Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the iCoaches podcast. We'll see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The iCoaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The iCoaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the iCoaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the iCoaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at iCoaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the iCoaches podcast.